So over this decade, SSEN Transmission is investing over £20 billion in upgrading and extending the electricity transmission network in the north of Scotland to be able to connect all the low carbon power that's required out to 2030. Offshore wind, onshore wind, but also new sources of demand and flexibility like pump hydro. That is a massive investment for this region. We think it might actually be the biggest investment since World War II in the north of Scotland and the Highland region. And it has huge benefits for the local communities in the area. As part of the projects that we are developing, we will have lots of people, potentially thousands of people living within the north of Scotland to actually build these projects. And we are aware that there's not currently enough accommodation in these areas to accommodate that. In some of the more rural locations, there's not even enough space for the local people to get housing. And then you can add on top of that the tourism demand and more people looking for short-term lets. So what we're planning is actually to build at least 200 properties, permanent properties, as part of these projects that at the end of the projects could be transferred for use within the local communities and people there. We're also planning to put in place accommodation camps so that we can avoid causing a drain on local accommodation. And the sites that those camps are built on can then leave behind serviced areas that could be developed for permanent housing in the future. So it's a real positive legacy in terms of that accommodation piece. There's also community benefit that comes with these projects, so we're awaiting decisions from government on this, but there's a recommendation that could lead to over £150 million of community benefit. And whilst we're waiting, we wanted to get ahead of things, so we've actually already committed a £10 million fund based on projects that we already have in construction. And that's initial phase of £2 million, which will be made available from the end of this summer for the north of Scotland region, our network region. The other big benefit is around the nature side of things. So the challenge we get from a lot of people when we consult on these projects is, what does this mean for nature? What about the wildlife? What about the native species that we have here? And what we're doing is meeting a commitment of at least a 10% gain in biodiversity across all of our projects. What that means in practical terms is things like planting to attract species that are good for biodiversity. At one of our projects in Thurso, we actually worked with the Bumblebee Trust, and they helped us figure out what are the right types of plants that have a long flowering season that will really attract bumblebees to the area. And there's been an increase in the rare great yellow bumblebee in Caithness as a result of that project. So there are really exciting opportunities for us in that space too. It's really exciting to be delivering projects that are providing energy security, delivering on our net zero ambitions and tackling climate in a really practical way, but also to have these tangible benefits to the local communities that we work and live in.